The 1920s was a decade of prosperity in America. After World War I, the economy expanded vastly. Consumerism, the Jazz Age, flappers, and prohibition became key characteristics of the Roaring Twenties. In today's society, just one name can make us visualize the time period: Gatsby. The novel, published in 1925 by F. Scott Fitzgerald, was recently released as a movie in 2013, bringing a modern edge to the Roaring Twenties. However, this modernization had portrayed the 1920s in a false light. The story is about a man, Nick Carraway, who follows wealthy bootlegger Jay Gatsby as he pursues the one thing he does not have, the woman he loves, Daisy Buchanan. In the story, Fitzgerald attempts to portray the mindset of the decade, full of shallow values, corruption, and the integrity behind the American dream. The movie, however, plays up the time period to much more glamorous appeal. First, we have the parties.
Oh, you penniless panty waist.
As you can see, Gatsby parties were more extravagant. The Jazz Age allowed big parties with live music, but common parties did not have the glitz and glam that the film portrays. Another difference is the clothing. The clothing of the 1920s was much different than the movie. The clothing in the movie was more colorful and glamorous, and some of the clothing characters wore were not 20s apparel. In the 1920s, there was a clash of traditional values and new trends and morals, such as Victorianism and flappers disagreeing. Some clothing was meant to show this, to show the differing in traditionalism and new values. For example, Tom's conserved suit and Gatsby's pink linen suit. As for the women, Daisy wears certain clothing similar to earlier decades, while Jordan sports pants that were not current to the fashion until the 1930s. Some similarities include the American dream, which Gatsby symbolized by being a self-made success, which was the aspiration of many in the 1920s. But people believed they could rise in classes and live the American dream regardless of where they started out.
His parents were dirt poor farmers from North Dakota, but he never accepted them as his parents at all. In his own imagination, he was a son of God, destined for future glory. Chasing this destiny, a 16-year-old Gats ran far, far away. One afternoon, off the coast of Lake Superior, he spotted a yacht in peril. He rowed out and rescued the vessel and its captain, alcoholic millionaire Dan Cody. This was his opportunity, and he seized it.
And I decided right then and there to call myself Jay Gatsby.
He sailed the yacht out of danger and into his future. By midsummer, Gatsby was front page news.
In this scene, we see the Dust Bowl in the West, which was a large issue in the 1920s and 1930s. It also showed the sharp contrast between the wealthy and the poor. The poor were particularly farmers, while cities flourished. The story also showed that the morals behind the American dream were corrupt, with characters such as Meyer Wolfsheim based off of Arnold Rothstein, who became famous from fixing the 1919 World Series, and the bootlegging Gatsby participated in. The corruption in the American dream and the narrow-minded values of the decade were shown. The 1920s was a time of flourishing and growth in American cities that was shown glamorously in Baz Luhrmann's film The Great Gatsby. Many of the elements of the 1920s, such as parties and flappers, were played up in this movie to portray the 20s in a more modernized way.